Hello, thanks for joining today's webinar. You can enlarge your screen for the optimal viewing experience using these buttons. You can also click the arrow here to view the hidden menu. The section at the very bottom will twirl out a menu that allows you to ask questions for the host to answer. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy this webinar.
Hello everyone, my name is Tiffany and with me today is Christina and we are the product managers of TaxBandits. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today.
Now, as a quick reminder, just like always, we have years and years of experience. We are so excited to be here to talk to you about tax forms and information returns and all of those things, but we are not tax advisors, so if you have specific scenarios or specific questions, definitely reach out to either the IRS directly or a certified tax preparer.
So what we're going to talk about today is mastering the 94X series and what forms, what's included on the forms, and more.
Well, I think we can go ahead and just start off by mentioning, why are we talking about these today? And it is because there is a big deadline for your 94X series forms coming up, along with many other forms on January 31st. So we talk a lot about the 1099s and the W-2s, but we want to really focus on the 94X series and what of those forms you need to kind of think about if you need to file, frequently asked questions. So what would you like to start on first? We've covered that it's the January 31st deadline for 2025.
Yes.
I think we could note that it is really all of the 94X series forms that TaxBandits supports.
Yes.
It just depends on which ones do you or do your clients have to file.
Correct.
But you can see a full list of the forms that we support under tax forms at taxbandits.com. Including the 94X series, so like your 941 and all the various versions, whether that includes Schedule R or it's the Spanish version or, it's all those options, as well as the 940 for a lot of companies, the 940 Schedule R, or maybe you have to file like a 943, 944, 945. All of those forms are due on January 31st, whether it's the fourth quarter of 2024 or if it's one of the annual forms, it's the 2024 form. But those are due at the end of January. So if you have not already started gathering that information, definitely get to doing that now.
Yes.
And then, like we mentioned in all of our videos, if you have not already created your TaxBandits account, getting that created today, going in and getting the basics set up so that you're able to get that data entered and file in a timely manner. Tiffany, do you want to tell, I know we talk about this in so many of our videos, but do you want to tell us just the basics of how to get started if we have anyone watching that hasn't done that yet?
Oh, for sure. And along those lines with creating that account, we do have a live support team here that can assist to go ahead and get that done now. Now is the time, so you can go ahead and get all that information in there, and we have the time and the manpower to help you with that. So to get started, just like always, you want to make sure you get your team members into your account. So you want to go into your Bandit Collab and get those uploaded or set, the roles set. And once you get your team members added, you want to go ahead and add your payers into your address book so you've got those ready to go for when you start filing. We have a ton of resources on that our clients can check out, such as our YouTube videos that show them how to do almost everything.
Yep, you can search Bandit Collab, you can search the address book. We have done many webinars on those things,
Absolutely.
So lots of resources to see how those work.
Exactly, including our knowledge base, which is listed on our website, and our brand new AI support bot. You can ask him a question and he'll tell you some answers.
It's very cool though. It's really, I don't know, it's exciting because it's new for this season and we've put a lot of work into it. So
he is very insightful. I actually enjoy talking to him. So do you want to give us a little bit of information about what's required for the 94X? Because I know it's quite a list.
It is, but it's also, A lot of it is stuff that you typically would just have in your records already, which is nice. It's not super off the wall. But yeah, I'd love to go into some of those details. So obviously, number one, it's like your business information. So your business name, your EIN, your address, all of those details have to go on that form. But you've already got those in your records. So getting those, like you mentioned, the address book, you're able to add all of that, whether you're filing for clients or if you have multiple businesses to file for, you can add all of those to the address book when you start, and then you just select the business on the form and we autofill the name that you added, the EIN, the address, all of that just auto-populates for you, so it keeps things faster.
And that way, when you're filling it out, it's literally just a couple of clicks and you're done.
Exactly. Obviously, the tax year and the quarter that you're filing, if it's 941, or the tax year if it's an annual form, but our process is very intuitive, so we're guiding you through picking those things to begin with. And then to get into the more informational pieces, like the number of employees that you paid for the quarter, or for the year if it's one of the annual returns, the gross pay, so including like wages, tips, other compensation. And then, of course, it's just filling out the boxes that are asking for this information as you go. The federal income tax withheld from employee wages, wages subject to Social Security tax and Medicare tax, and then a big thing, and we'll talk about this more in the FAQs, but like the total deposits that you made for the quarter, if any.
Yeah.
And then if you're making payments, just having all of those things prepared in advance. The other thing that you may need would be if you're a business owner, or if you're somebody filing for the business itself, if you have the 10-digit online signature PIN. If you don't, that's totally fine. There are other ways that you can sign the form. Those are supported in TaxBandits. They're really easy to use. But if you have an online signature PIN, having that ready, just so that you're able to enter that when you file. Now, I could dive into all of the other signature stuff now, but I think that'll fit better when we talk about the FAQs. So, I mean, really, that's what's needed for the 941 forms and that's specific to the 941. But for the other returns, whether it's a 940, 943 for agricultural, or 944 annual, or whatever it may be, TaxBandits is going to guide you through filling out all of the required fields, so you'll be able to see what information's needed. We have detailed pages on our site that go into more info on all of those different forms.
We do.
So, like you said, we have the support team if there's anything that there are additional questions about. But really, we're walking you through. One of the great things about e-filing with that required information is a lot of the fields on these payroll forms are related to an IRS calculation. So you'll have the number, but then some of the other boxes are calculating that number against like certain percentages, right?
Yes.
And so we're doing a lot of those auto calculations for you. We'll actually autofill anything like based off of what you've put in one box, anything that we can autofill, we'll auto calculate for you. And so that makes it a lot easier. We also have validations throughout that process. So if there's something where like maybe a box isn't needed because you answered this a certain way, so this box isn't necessary, we're going to automatically show those things for you. You know, if you don't need Schedule B, we're not going to present Schedule B for you based on how you've entered the form. If there's a mathematical, error, if your, we'll talk about this more, but like if your deposits aren't matching with your liability, like we have those things built in to help you know and feel confident even when you're going through it that you've filled out what's required.
Right, kind of like a checks and balances type thing.
Exactly. But I think that could probably kick us off with the FAQs if you want to dive into those.
Absolutely. So we get this one a lot, is like, how do I get my data in at all? We have a lot of different ways to do this. So you can manually file it if you only have a couple, which I definitely recommend. If you have just a handful,
just one or two. If sometimes it's easier to just plug it in. Looks just like the form.
Exactly. And if you've already got it in your address book, you just go click, and add the numbers, and you're done. It's a real simple process with that. And now we're going to show you a video on how to do the manual upload.
So from your dashboard, you're going to click Start New Form. Choose Form 941. You'll then need to enter a employer here, or select one from our address book and click Save and Continue. If any missing information is needed, such as the business structure or signatory details, you can add those now. Save and Continue. Then you'll choose the proper quarter, start filing. Confirm that you have the authority to file on behalf of this business by entering the business name and checking the box and clicking Confirm. Now, if you have no payments to employees this quarter, you can check the zero reporting box and skip through the rest of the form. Otherwise, go ahead and enter everything in the form. So section 1, number of employees, total wages and tips, total federal income tax withheld, taxable Social Security wages, tips, Medicare taxes, wages and tips, etc. Filling out all this information. When you're finished, click Save and Continue. On page 2, you'll need to enter your deposit schedule and tax liability. If your tax liability is less than $2,500, you can check this box. Otherwise, you'll need to be a monthly depositor or semi-weekly depositor. If you're a monthly depositor, enter the tax liability for each month of the quarter, making sure it matches up with line 12. Or if you're a semi-weekly depositor, you'll be taken to Schedule B after this. Check either of the boxes if your business has closed or stopped paying wages, or if you're a seasonal employer and you don't have to file a return every quarter. Otherwise, leave those blank. If you want to add a third-party designee, do it there. You can skip part 5 because we'll do this later. Click Save and Continue. Now we'll be taken to Schedule B because we checked semi-weekly depositor. Enter the amount for each day of the month for each of the 3 months, making sure it totals up to the amount on line 12. You also have the option to upload Schedule B details up here. You can download our template and enter everything, either for specific dates or all the dates in the month, and then re-upload it. Click Save and Continue when finished. Then you'll need to pay your IRS payment due. You can do this by credit or debit card, EFTPS, EFW, or check or money order. Click Continue. Accept the consent. Then you'll be presented with a summary. You'll click Continue, and your form will be checked for common errors. If no errors are found, you can continue. If there are errors found, you can just click Fix Errors and fix them. Then you'll need to e-sign this form, so you can enter a tended signature pin if you have one, or you can e-sign an 8453 EMP. You'll just click here and e-sign. And check this box and click Save and Continue. And additionally, you can add text notifications to get updates from the IRS, and to get a physical copy via postal mail of your Form 941 if you wish. Click Continue. Review the summary one more time. Click Complete Filing. And add a card or select an existing one. Confirm that you have the authority to use that card and click Pay and Transmit. And that's it. You'll receive status updates at your email, or you can return to the 94X dashboard and view status updates here.
So now that you've seen how the manual entry works, you can also bulk upload your 941.
And that works great for, like, if you're a tax preparer and you're filing for a lot of clients, you can add all of your clients and their 941 data on a template, bulk upload it to TaxBandits, and then you're able to review and file as needed. Mm-hmm. It works really similarly to our other bulk uploads if you've used us for like 1099s or W-2s. As always, we have a full support team that's here if you end up having questions about the template or when you upload, but it's a great option when you're filing more than one or more than a couple 941s per quarter. Okay, so you've answered our question about how do I get my data in, right? Because that's probably one of the biggest ones that we get. I don't know if it's the biggest, but it's definitely a frequent question. And it's one of my favorite because it's such a simple thing to fix. It can be so frustrating when it's happening, but it's so easy once you're like, oh, that's what's happening. So your 941 and your Schedule B, one of the most common questions that we get is when you're going through and you're completing the 941, I guess I'm going to make this a two-parter, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Part one of the question I want to address is, like, how do I get my Schedule B to show up? Or I don't need to file Schedule B, why is it showing up? Either one. And really, it's all tied to part 2 of the 941. When you're going through and you're reporting, line 16 is the only line in part 2, but it's so impactful because if the first option applies, that box just gets automatically checked and you move on, right? But if you are a monthly scheduled depositor and you check that box, you won't get a Schedule B to complete because that Schedule B is specific to the semi-weekly scheduled depositors. Exactly. So if you're monthly, you'll actually end up filling out, there are 3 boxes that'll show up for monthly scheduled depositors on part 2, and you're putting in your tax liability there. So like you've indicated that monthly is your deposit schedule and you're putting in your tax liability.
Correct.
If you check that you were a semi-weekly scheduled depositor, that's when we're automatically going to show you on the next page to complete Schedule B. And again, it's the same concept. So you've said that, okay, well, semi-weekly is my deposit schedule, and then you have to put your tax liability on
Right.
Schedule B. And there is so much confusion. And again, we're not tax advisors, but it is, if you look at the IRS instructions, when you dive into it, it's actually pretty clear, but it's a really common misconception that Schedule B and even the monthly scheduled depositor breakdown, those things are not asking what did you pay.
Correct.
They are asking what were you liable for.
Right.
And so what we see a lot is there's just this confusion, and so filers, whether it's a preparer or a business owner, they'll they'll fill out Schedule B based on the deposits that they made. And then they receive an error that your Schedule B doesn't match your total tax due. I know they've updated the 941 a lot over the years. And so I believe it is still line 12. It's the total taxes after adjustments and non-refundable credits. Line 12 has to match line 16, which would be your
Correct.
monthly scheduled depositor amount or your semi-weekly Schedule B total. But those two things have to match because mathematically they should be the same.
Right.
Because I can't stress this enough, it's not asking for your deposits, it's asking for what were you actually liable for.
Correct.
And they already have the deposit information on line 13. So it's already going to do that math and figure out what you still owe, if you owe anything, or if you get a credit back. That part's happening in a separate section of the form. This is them trying to figure out what did you owe when.
Yes.
But that is my long-winded two-part FAQ. So what's the next FAQ that you wanna touch on?
Okay. Well, they're going with the payments. We get a lot of questions about, can payments be made with Form 941? We offer several options based on what the IRS allows us to offer. We have credit card, which you can pay directly through TaxBandits. EFTPS, which we now offer through TaxBandits. So once you've made your selection and completed your filing, we will direct you back to the EFTPS page so you can make that payment and get it scheduled. And then there's EFW, which is electronic funds withdrawal, and you put your information into the form itself. This is secure. We don't see that information. Only you and the IRS see this information.
Exactly, because we're not handling that payment.
We
That's
are
actually
not.
getting deducted directly from the IRS.
Correct.
Yep.
The bank is communicating with the IRS and vice versa, and that's where it goes. The last option is check or money order. You definitely want to get that postmarked by the 31st so that your payment is considered on time.
Or go with one of the other options that'll
Allow
help
it
you
to
get
be
there,
right then. Do you have any other FAQs that we have a lot of this time of
I
year?
know, we get so many, and I really tried to pick some that I know come up a lot and affect a lot of different filer types. One of the other really big ones that I know that we hear a lot is about the signing options. So
That's a big rabbit hole.
it is, and it's really specific to those 94X forms. The IRS requires a signature, essentially, is what's happening with those returns. And so if you're a business or if you're a tax preparer, it's something that you have to handle, essentially. And we have several methods of helping you do that, but it is not a TaxBandits requirement, it is an IRS requirement. If you are a business owner, we mentioned a little bit earlier, you have the option to apply for an online signature pin.
Yes.
You can do that through TaxBandits, there's no cost for it, but it is a lengthy process. I believe it takes about 45 days.
Correct.
Because you have to complete it, and then you receive something from the IRS, and you have to follow those steps, and it's a little bit of a back and forth, which is okay,
It is.
because then you just get to enter this PIN and move on when you e-file.
Yeah, you just don't want to wait till like the last day to try to do it that way.
Correct, because you're not going to have it for that quarter
No.
or that that year end or whatever form it is. It's not going to be ready for that deadline if
It's not.
if it's right at the end there. But if you either don't want one or don't have one, and you're needing to file, the 8453 EMP is essentially it's an electronic signature form, but it'll have some of the values from the 941, and there's an option to e-sign that on TaxBandits. And when you do that, we autofill the 8453 for you. You e-sign it, and we actually e-file it with your form to the IRS, and they do require that to consider it a valid
Yes.
form. So it's really simple to complete through TaxBandits, but it is part of that process. And so I know we get questions about that. And then for preparers, it varies a little bit. If you are a tax preparer and you're filing with a PTIN, you'll have to actually send the 8453 to your client to e-sign. We recommend e-filing, but there are other options to handle that in TaxBandits. But once your client has signed, you'll also have to e-sign as the preparer.
Yes.
And again, that's just what the IRS requires for those forms. If you are an ERO, you actually get the 8879 EMP, which it's the same exact concept. It's just a slightly different form based on the filer type. But the process works the same. And then I always love for reporting agents. They actually just have a reporting agent pin. It's my favorite too. And they can plug that in, and then because they've already done a signature process separately, and so they don't have to worry about that back and forth at the time of filing. But I know we get questions about those. And then the other one I wanted to just touch on quickly is why e-file. And really, I think that we hear it's the status updates is the biggest. There are a lot of great benefits. The auto calculations make it easier. They help you to avoid like simple human error, right? But also when you e-file, it gets processed. The 94X forms are usually pretty quick. I know our average is about 24 to 48 hours for most forms, but usually those are faster than that even. And you'll know if it's accepted, or if it is rejected, you'll know why, and you can edit and resubmit that form. But having that proof of filing and that confirmation is so huge, especially with the 94X forms, and everything is moving away from paper filing anyway, so it's a great option. But that is all I have. Is there anything that you have before you close us out today, Tiffany?
I'm sure we have so many more questions, and some new ones we'll encounter this year.
For sure.
But I think that's all I have for today. But you definitely want to check out our YouTube channel and check out our resources on our website. Call our support team if you have any questions. And until next time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.
Create your account.